Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Sandy Yu, and we're going to be talking about how to fix your revenue leaks. Looking forward to this. Sandy, I love the background. It's when we're talking about leaks, having a lighthouse and the sea is just perfect. And where can people find you apart from standing by a lighthouse?
Thanks. So happy to be here, Tim. People can find me first and foremost on LinkedIn. So Sandy SYU, or if you type in Sandy U, the last name YU revenue, I should be one of the first hits. Or they can come to my website, revenuecco.com, and that's revenue customer capital optimization.com.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about redefining go-to-market or GTM.
Yeah.
The traditional blind spot, Sandy, most people see go-to-market as a launch or a sales play. Why is excluding customer success from go-to-market definition the primary cause of revenue leaks?
Well, who knows better than customer success about what your customer is actually doing after the sales? So the sales team actually knows the customer really well in order to get them to the door. The biggest revenue leak is not paying attention to the customers afterwards. Now you have a team called customer success. They are working to help onboard your customers, make sure that they adopt your product, and hopefully renew with them. And there's another aspect of it that's really important we'll talk about later. But not including this team that's so focused is on making your customer successful is a huge revenue leak. They're a source of information, they're a source of insight, and you are missing out big time if you're not including them in your leadership discussions.
So talking about the unified team, you talk about go-to-market as a triad of marketing, sales, and customer service. In your experience, which of these three silos is usually the leakiest and why?
The leakiest, it really depends on what stage the customer is at. At the front of the funnel, the leakiest is actually the sales. Oftentimes when they're targeting the wrong people. So sales have a mandate of their KPI is how many deals can I get through the door? So are they considering whether the customers will actually be using our product? Are they considering the customers will actually be successful solving their problems? So that's the biggest revenue leak. When you're getting customer in the door, they're leaving out the back door. So that's the biggest leaky bucket in the front of the funnel.
So you talk about an 8-pillar operating system, don't you? Which is total relevant market, market investment map, brand and demand, unique selling point, pipeline velocity, customer time to value, customer expansion, RevOps, and leadership and alignment.
Yes.
So can we talk about pillar 1, which is total relevant market? How does an ill-defined market map lead to wasted revenue before a salesperson even picks up the phone?
Yeah, that's where I was just sharing, going after the wrong ideal customers. So when people think about selling, they think about something called the total addressable market. I don't think people should focus on the total addressable market, or sometimes called TAM.
TAM, yeah.
I feel like they really need to think about the total relevant market is where can you grow the most? There may be 1 billion people that could potentially use your services or use your product. But which ones are the most uniquely needing you? Which ones are the most uniquely needing you right now? Not the ones that are possible, but the ones that are actually needing your services. And so the first pillar, the workshop that we do, is around how to identify where you can grow the most.
And pillar number 4, pipeline velocity. We often talk about the size of the pipeline, but you focus on velocity. What are the common friction points that slow down revenue capture?
The friction points that slow down is actually the data that's living in different silos. So that's the data is number 1. The second is the GTM motions. So go to market motions. So people think about sales led. Some people think about product-led, different types of growth, right? Sales-led growth, product-led growth, but there are other ways to grow as well. There's actually event-led growth. So a lot of companies are actually having growth just by doing events with their customers, with their partners. There's also community-led growth. And so there's a lot of different options for you to go to market, and knowing the right combination, knowing what stage you're in and where you should lean into in terms of that particular growth approach, that's going to get you to your revenue the fastest. So again, it depends on the stage of the company that you're at. If you're in the beginning, you're trying to grow fast. You're trying to validate that you have the right customer, that have the right solution, and that you can sell the same thing to the same people all the time, every time. That's when you actually have product market fit. And that's when you can actually have velocity, when you have the right go-to-market motion that's aligned to your revenue goal.
And pillar 5, which is customer time to value. This is a fascinating pillar. Why is the honeymoon phase right after a deal closes actually the highest risk moment for any revenue leak?
Let me give you an example. A customer signs on. They took, I don't know, 2-3 months. They really have to put themselves on the line to vouch for you as a company, as a product. And then they did all this work, talked to you multiple times a day. And on the day that deal closed, probably 8 times, right? And then right afterwards, what happens? Oh, here's a link of onboarding resources that can help you. And so you go from this immersive experience where I am the most, as a customer, literally the most important person in this company's perspective. And then you get a link to onboard yourself, self-service, or no one to help me or guide me. That letdown is like getting married and then saying, here, have fun on your honeymoon, right? And that's the first time when the experience gets soured. I always think about once you close the deal, that's actually just the beginning. The finish line for sales is the beginning of us building customer trust, and it's the beginning of us building customer success. And so that's the riskiest part. A lot of companies don't, even very large $100 million companies, they don't think about, what do we do with the customers afterwards? How do we ensure that they start using it? How do we ensure that they actually get value from it? And this topic, this pillar of time to value, imagine if you could get value within the first 30 days versus the first 3 months.
Absolutely. And pillar 6, customer expansion. Many companies treat expansion as a bonus. How does your 8-pillar system turn expansion into a predictable part of the go-to-market engine rather than an afterthought?
Yeah. I think every CEO that I've spoken to have asked their teams repeatedly, look, we got to the first 50 million, and it's really great. The next 10 million, I really want that to come from our existing customers. We have a great customer base. So they've given the mandate. They've asked your teams to work together. But what's happening? Because teams have their own KPIs, marketing needs to drive leads, sales needs to close deals, customer success needs to save and renew customers. Who is thinking about how do we actually increase the value of the customer's current investments in order to earn the right for them to use more of us, to buy more from us? So there is not for the lack of mandate, it's not the lack of aspiration, it's the lack of a system. They don't have a way to say, how are we going to work together using the data that we have from the sales cycle, from the support system, from the customer success engagements together, to bring that together to say, this customer could really use us more in this use case, in this use case. Oh, this other department that we're not talking to right now actually could really use it. And it really starts by knowing what the customer's outcome they're trying to drive. So there's the lack of system that's keeping, I would say, that's keeping companies from getting revenue. And there's a very interesting statistic I just read from a Fullcast report. They did a benchmark survey looking at over $7 billion in revenue. Yep. So in 2025, I think the number is 52% of new revenue came from existing customers, more than half. So if companies don't have a system to look at how they can effectively drive cross-sell and upsell, they're definitely missing the boat.
There's a topic that seems to be gaining popularity with CEOs and investors, the idea of efficiency. We no longer have the luxury to drive growth at all cost, basically because we don't have access to free money anymore. Investors are wanting to know how a company can achieve the growth goals without the large price tag. What do you feel about that?
I think it's about time. I've been talking a lot about the leaky bucket. Like, you can't keep pouring. So this, you might already know this, Tim, but it costs twice as much.
You might know nothing.
It costs twice as much to get a sale from a new customer than it is from an existing customer. So in order for you to get a customer in the door, it might cost you $2. But in order to get new sale from existing customers, only costs you $1. 50%. And that's how you can grow efficiently. And when you, as I mentioned, 52% of new revenue came from existing customers. When you don't have a system to tap into that, then you can grow efficiently. You have this syndrome of leaky bucket. You keep pouring money into the most expensive way you can get revenue. And you don't have a way to capture that and monetize that at the end. It's very efficient. And I think investors are expecting growth, but really demanding efficiency.
Yeah. And the most valuable work starts after the contract is signed, not before, some people say. Yet the most go-to-market motions aren't designed to protect and grow customers from day one. But pretty much what you said earlier on about we're loving them, and then all of a sudden just send them a URL.
Yeah,
this is the mindset shift that scale up, not necessarily startup companies, should adopt. What's your view on that?
I think that is spot on. I think companies are lacking three things when it comes to expanding customers and doing more cross-sell and upsell. They're lacking clarity, they're lacking insights, and they're lacking focus. It's not for a lack of aspirations or mandate, as I said before, from the CEO, but they don't have a system to see clearly who should do what, who knows what about the customer, and what the customers actually need. You have to start with the intention of making your customers successful to help them achieve their business objectives. And you're almost entrenched in their businesses to help them design and strategize. Oh, if you were able to gain all these efficiency, you were able to have all these cost savings from your department, what other department do you think could benefit from this? So I would say those three things is the clarity, it's the data, and also is the focus.
I sometimes think it's maybe because of the fact that in the old days when people sold on-premise systems, you sold it, you gave the person the software or they downloaded it, and then you disappeared into the sunset. And I still
3 years later.
yeah. And I still think that there's still kind of that mindset in the industry that what we do is that we sell something and then we walk away.
Yeah, I think customer expectations are much higher now, even if they're license-based, kind of software license-based, and they're still on maintenance. They really expect to have a partner as their business. But that's how you actually gain the trust. I'm not just here to sell you a piece of software to do this one thing. I'm interested in how do I help you personally get your next promotion. I'm interested in help your company gain the next % gain so that you can have that, exit, you can have that leverage, you can have that merger. That's how you really gain trust. You have to have that intention, and you have a system Sorry, I keep using the word system, but really without a system, you're just, kind of hoping that this will work out.
Yes, I'm a great sales is a process, and I'm a great believer in process. You have to have it. Anyway, finding the leaks. So the silent leak. What is a revenue leak that most CEOs or CROs are completely oblivious to until it's too late?
Well, the efficient way to growth. This is what we've been talking about, right? So even though they have asked their team to really think about how do we drive more growth? How do we drive more expansion and cross sell? How do we get our customers to refer us more often, not just to other departments, but to their peers? How do businesses buy today? Do they go to your website? Maybe. Do they get the analyst report and see the magic quadrant, see who's leading the wave? Maybe. But more often than not, I'm going to go to my friend Tim, who is the CEO of a company, and say, what is your tech stack? What do you use? And Tim, why did you leave that company recently? If I've been able to make you successful,
Yep.
make your company successful, you're very naturally going to be talking about us.
Yep.
And this growth from existing customer is by far the biggest revenue leak that CEOs are not focusing on.
Yeah. I would agree. So let's talk about RevOps, which is your pillar number 7.
Yeah.
How should a RevOps team function to act as the early warning system for these leaks across the 8 pillars?
Yeah, RevOps team are doing so much more. And RevOps team sometimes is sales ops team and just got slapped the title RevOps. So they're being asked to do a lot. And what I think the RevOps team should really focus on. So first of all, I think you need to differentiate the difference between RevOps and sales ops.
Okay.
Sales ops is about forecast. It's about pipeline. It's about territory assignment. RevOps is what do we need to look at? What are the KPIs in terms of annual revenue retention, gross revenue retention? What are the signals from the revenue as a whole that we need to move? And it's about the right go-to-market metrics, not the marketing metrics, not the sales metrics, but what is the go-to-market metrics that drives your business health? So it's health score, it's engagement, it's net revenue retention, and net revenue retention is measured by looking at all your growth minus the companies that have left. And also just on a quarterly basis, who are the cohorts that are making you the most money? Having insights to finding out where the customers that get the most value from your products and services, so that you can bring that data back to sales, back to marketing to get more of the same customers. That's actually, you have that flywheel of revenue effect. And that all starts with RevOps.
And pillar 8, which is leadership and alignment. You can have the best strategy on paper, but if leadership isn't aligned, it fails. How do you get a CMO, a head of sales, and a head of customer service to agree on a single revenue map?
First of all, I think you have to have them start talking to each other beyond this quarterly readout. So a lot of companies I work with, they have this quarterly strategy meeting, right? And that quarterly strategy meeting, what happens? Each department stands up and say, this is our KPI and this is how we crushed it. And this is all the great things that we did. It's really like it's a wonderful way to have teams to have accolades, to share their accolades and the successes. But what they're not doing is that they're not looking at it as a team. What is the biggest problem we're facing as a company? What is our cost of acquisition today, and how can we lower that? And what does our expansion look like? How is that mapped to our product strategy, right? when leadership, it's a CEO's job to lead. I believe it's a CEO's job to lead go-to-market. It's not a sales responsibility. It's not a marketing responsibility, and it's not a customer success responsibility. It's the CEO's responsibility to lead go-to-market across these teams so they have alignment and clarity, and they have the trust, not just to build trust with the customers and to have trust with each other. And you start building trust with each other by sharing what's hard, what's not working, and aligning on the problem that you want to solve. So you're not just continue to chasing after your own KPIs and making your team, having successes for your team is going to be secondary to having success as a customer, as a team overall.
Sandy Yu, thank you so much for coming on and talking about fixing your revenue leaks. I really appreciate it. So if people wanted to find more information, where can they find you?
They can find me on revenuecco.com, and they can also find me on LinkedIn, Sandy SU, on LinkedIn.
And I know that and I believe the background photo is you've taken on vacation, haven't you? So where is that lighthouse?
This one, I believe, in somewhere in California. I can't remember, or maybe this is one of the background photos from one of my friends that has shared with me. Okay. But I do love to use my background photos. The next trip I'm going on is, if you think about where they can find me in person. So I'm based out of San Francisco Bay Area. You can always hit me up on LinkedIn. I love to have coffee, but also I'll be traveling to Sydney and Melbourne in May, and I'll be in Singapore speaking at a conference in July. So hit me up on LinkedIn. Love to connect.
And we're recording this in 2026 in case everybody.
Oh, that's right.
In 10 years time, yeah. And they're standing in Melbourne going, "Where's Sandy?"
Exactly. Hit me up on LinkedIn first. We'll make sure we find a time.
Yeah. Sandy, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim.